up guys, welcome back to another video. It's your boy Vimal Thomas and today we will be conquering mediastinum. So, mediastinum extends superiorly from thoracic outlet and the root of the neck. And inferiorly there is diaphragm which is a dome shaped with hilum and all. And anteriorly we have the sternum and posteriorly we have the vertebral column. And if you're talking about the contents of the mediastinum, we have the trachea, esophagus, sympathetic trunk, vagus nerve, phrenic nerve, etc. We'll be going through that later. Now the mediastinum divides into two parts. They are the superior mediastinum and inferior. This inferior mediastinum again divides into three. They are anterior mediastinum, middle mediastinum, and the posterior mediastinum. So, anterior mediastinum, it's a space between the pericardium of the heart and the sternum. Pericardium is the outer surface of the sac that covers the heart. So, anterior mediastinum, space between pericardium and sternum. So pericardium is a sac that covers the heart. Now middle mediastinum, it contains pericardium and heart. And posterior mediastinum, it lies between pericardium and vertebral column. So posterior mediastinum lies between the pericardium and the vertebral column. Next we are going to talk about anterior mediastinum. So anterior mediastinum, the contents are, there is thymus, right and left phrenic nerve, pericardium, heart, etc. So the thymus, first one is the thymus. It is a bilobed structure between sternum and pericardium. Sternum and the outer sac of the heart, that's known as pericardium. And then in newborns it reaches to its largest size, that is the size of the body, and it has a pink lobulated appearance which is a site of development. The blood supply is, there is the inferior thyroid artery, the internal thoracic artery, left and right brachiocephalic veins, and the first part of superior vena cava. Next one is the right phrenic nerve and the left phrenic nerve. So the right phrenic nerve descends in the thorax on right brachiocephalic vein, and superior vena cava, and then it has two parts. First one, it supplies diaphragm, and the terminal part, it supplies the peritoneum. The peritoneum is the peritoneum lines the abdominal cavity or covers the abdominal cavity. Then we have the left phrenic nerve. It descends in thorax and goes to the, after descending into the thorax, it goes to the left side of left subclavian artery. Then it goes to the root of the lung where the hilum and all are present. Then it supplies diaphragm. Again after that it supplies diaphragm. So this left and right phrenic nerves, it travels through the C3 or C4, it passes through the lungs, and then it reaches the diaphragm. Next we will be talking about pericardium. So as I have told earlier, pericardium is a sac that covers the heart. What is the function of pericardium? The function of pericardium is that it restricts the excessive movement of heart, and it lies in middle mediastinum, more specifically anteriorly on 5th to 8th thoracic vertebrae, and posteriorly body of sternum and 2 to 6 costal cartilages. So this pericardium is divided into two. There is fibrous pericardium and serous pericardium. Fibrous pericardium is a strong fibrous part of the sac, and it fuses with great blood vessels. The great blood vessels are fuses with great blood vessels. They are, first one, pulmonary trunk, second, superior and inferior vena cava, third we have pulmonary veins, and at last we have aorta. You can study this like PSP for PlayStation, and this had an A. So next one we'll be studying. Next after that we have serous pericardium. Serous pericardium has two layers. There is a parietal layer and a visceral layer. This parietal layer lies in fibrous pericardium and lines the fibrous pericardium, and it continues with the serous pericardium. The serous pericardium is also known as epicardium. So guys, that's all about serous pericardium. For fibrous pericardium we have one more point after blood vessels. The fibrous pericardium is attached to the sternum by a ligament known as sternopericardial ligaments, and then we have a slit-like space between fibrous pericardium and serous pericardium known as pericardial cavity. This pericardial cavity contains a pericardial fluid which acts as a lubricant to facilitate the movement of heart. So guys, next we are going to study about pericardial sinuses. Pericardial sinuses are formed by the walls of pericardium and the layers of pericardium, and there are three sinuses: oblique sinus, transverse sinus and inferior sinus. Oblique sinus, the borders are anteriorly we have the posterior wall of left atrium, and posteriorly we have the wall of pericardium and terminal parts of pulmonary vein and inferior vena cava. So transverse sinus, it connects the right and the left side of pericardial cavity, and inferior sinus is formed in the passage of anterior part of pericardium into the inferior loop. So guys, next we are going to talk about the nerve supply. So we have phrenic nerves, that's the first one, and sympathetic trunk and vagus nerve. The phrenic nerve supplies fibrous pericardium and parietal layer of serous pericardium. The sympathetic trunk and vagus nerve supplies visceral layer of serous pericardium. Another important thing that we should note is that during inflammation of pericardium called pericarditis, there is an excessive accumulation of the pericardial fluid that may compress the atria. This compression of heart is known as tamponade, and it also occurs during secondary gunshot or stab wound. This pericardial fluid can be aspirated from pericardial cavity if excessive amount accumulate in the pericarditis. This process is called as paracentesis, and the needle can be introduced between the xiphoid process of the sternum and 7th costal cartilage. Thank you.